सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Ayubowan everyone, greetings to you from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, Sri Lanka, and Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, High Commission of India, Colombo. And I would like to welcome you, all of you, for this special workshop. So as you might know, the month June is a special month for yoga enthusiasts as we celebrate the International Day of Yoga on June 21st every year. So this year we have conducted a series of workshops to share the knowledge. So we, Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, is the Center for Yogic Knowledge, which has its roots since 1953. Ashtanga Yoga Mandir Academy offers diploma in Hatha Yoga instructing and yogic lifestyle counseling, and also an advanced diploma in yoga therapy. AYM is globally affiliated with several international yoga associations such as Asian Yoga Therapy, SVCC Yoga University India, Vivekananda Yoga Global Singapore. We conduct regular yoga classes for corporate, senior citizens, yoga for ladies and kids, and also therapy yoga for health issues. Also, we conduct free workshops like this to impart the knowledge of yoga. And today also we have selected a timely topic and also one of the ideal resource to talk about this topic. So let me welcome our guest speaker today, Dr. Venura Palihavadana. Dr. Venura Palihavadana is a senior lecturer in psychiatry in University of Sri Jayewardenepura. He's a consultant psychiatrist in Colombo South Teaching Hospital, Kaluvovila. And his areas of expertise are personality disorders and personality development, addiction management, behavior modification, family therapy, group therapy for couples, and mindfulness-based therapies. So I would like to warmly welcome you, sir. We are pleased to have you today with us. So our topic today is looking after your mental health during a pandemic situation. And before I hand over the control to the doctor, you can post your questions in the chat box during the discussion or even after the discussion. We have a question and answer session. So we will take your questions accordingly. And the chat box will be open till 5:15 for you to post your questions. So without further ado, let me give the control to the doctor.
Thank you very much, Amalka. I'm really excited to be a part of this wonderful program. Although it's 8 p.m. where I am right now in Brisbane, I'm really, I really look forward to this program too. Because I find, I recently when I left, when I came from Sri Lanka to Australia, I'm here for a brief period. But when I came, I had to see so many people who were struggling with their mental health problems. So when I think about what's happening, one of the things which was striking, a pandemic, looking after your mental well-being in pandemic actually should not be actually the topic. why we were not, pandemic just highlighted what's wrong in it, what we were doing wrong actually. It just highlighted it. And it made us aware of our shortcomings. It made us realize uh, the strategies we were doing, the way we were looking after, the way we paying attention to our mental health was not enough. So all these shortcomings, all these difficulties were highlighted during the pandemic. This is what I think actually happened. So uh, why trying to understand the struggle we are having during the pandemic, one of the major things, uh, one of the major steps actually is to look at ourselves before the pandemic. What were we doing? How were we? How much attentive to us towards our mental health, and the way we, the way we treated our mental health. Those things are very important. So what I would say, what we miss in pandemic, what we miss, and why we struggle during the pandemic. They basically, it- everything can be kind of when we try to analyze it, we can't forget the fact that our activities we did before the pandemic, they had a kind of a compulsive quality in it. Most of the things we did, for example, let's say an average day of a person. If you try to analyze it, from the morning to night till he sleeps, there is a kind of a compulsiveness to that activity, the activities they did. There is a kind of a mindlessness, right? Kind of an autopilot mode. From the morning you get up, think about the things you do in a particular work day, right? The Usually you do the same things, right, in the same sequence, right? If you are going to, if the first thing you are doing is going to the bathroom, you would do that. If you are ironing your clothes, you would do that. If you take the bus, you usually go to the same bus stop, right? If you drive your car, you would try to use the same route. And if you are going to park, if you would park in the same spot, and you would meet the same people, and you would talk the same things, and you would create same emotional reactions in you. And it will be, after some time, when you keep on, actually this is not me saying this, research evidence says, when when man or a woman, when they are 30, around 70% of their daily activities has a kind of an autopilot mode. So it has a kind of a, most of the things like they do, it has a kind of mindlessness attached to it, because you do it without your knowledge. So what happens when you do it? There is a thing called, your brain has a quality called neuronal plasticity. When you are active, when you are doing the same thing over and over again, this is what happens to people who get addicted to substances, right? Think about a person who is addicted to alcohol. Whatever you tell them, you might scold them, you might try to do certain things, punish them to make them stop it. But after some time, your brain is hijacked by the substance, right? Your brain pathways are reinforced in the way. So the substance rejection is not very strong in their mind. They can't activate that pathway of brain. So after, the same thing happens with your daily routine of your life. So you become you become actually like a victim of your own habits. So it's like, if you have watched that Matrix movie, in the Matrix movie, everybody is, according to that movie, everybody is in a kind of a program. We don't have the willpower according to that. So we are being run by some kind of a computer program according to that movie. I would say there is no outside agency doing this to us. We have we have become succumbed to our own habits after some time by repeating it over and over and over again. Now, when the pandemic comes, now all these habits, all these routines, all these compulsions are taken away. Now you don't know what to do with your life. So you are not happy with your life because you are not, that comfort which comes with that repetitiveness, that compulsiveness, that predictability, it is gone now. So you can't. Then you are left with your own thoughts. You are left with your own mind and your own thoughts and maybe few people around you. then you don't know how to deal with that situation, because you don't have that escape. You don't have that night out. You don't have that work, burying yourself. So you can't do that now anymore. Then you don't know what to do with you. So isn't it a very sad situation that you are not happy when you are left alone with yourself, and it becomes a problem, and it needs medical help? I think it is a sad situation, because now, so I think, to be honest, what this is my personal belief, I think, the pandemic has asked us to upgrade to the next level, as a species. It has asked us to, okay, it's trying us, it's testing our disability, whether we can sit down. How many of us can sit down in a chair like this for 10 minutes without being distracted by something, maybe our mobile phones, maybe calling someone. Sometimes telephone calls, that can be kind of a compulsion. You don't like to be with yourself, so you want to talk with someone. Or maybe watching a YouTube video, maybe logging into your Facebook profile, something like. So you need that escape. I would say, and also to make things worse, we are bombarded by information every day. We were bombarded by information every day. Like, we are being subscribed to this news channel, that news channel, and there are SMS alerts. And also there's a world competing for our attention. It's an attention economy, right? The economic world depends on our attention. So how much, so so that's why we are being given a new topic every week to talk about, a new development, new gossip every week. So we were used to those things, right? This hyperstimulate. That's why they say, even, like, it's like a pandemic of hyperactivity and inattentiveness, because we are being trained to become hyperactive and inattentive, because we go on paying attention. So I would say the biggest challenge in this century is to deciding what to pay attention and what not to pay attention. Some time ago, the problem was the lack of information. People didn't know what to read, what to, where to find. Now it's not the case. There is there are so much information, and what not to pay attention and what to pay attention is the problem. So that, we don't have that. We didn't have that self-controlling, self-regulatory capacity. So that's why we were kind of, we were like puppets being controlled by all the media, or the gossips, or the new development, the political stories, entertainment industry. They produce stories massively, like, every weekly, probably daily. So now, so that's why. So we were not trained to do this. We were trained to run away from our pain. Everything, what is boredom? Boredom, if you try to understand boredom is your inability to contain your psychological frustration, isn't it? When you think about boredom, let's say I'm bored. What I'm bored, I can't. I need something. I need some stimulation. That's why you are bored, right? Oh, I should go out. I should watch a movie. I'm bored. So what you are basically saying, your inner mental, your ability to tolerate your own thoughts and your own being, you are not capable of. That's what boredom is, basically. So we get bored means we are not happy with us. Unfortunately, human mind is created to become unhappy. It's an innate quality of human mind, right? That's why it's like this. Some time ago, scientists tried to do a research to find out what makes people happy. So they planned a very simple study. What they did was, they distributed pagers. Pagers, like it's a pager. It's like a telephone, like like a handheld phone where you get the messages only. So they distributed pagers among people, and they would send them a text asking, what are you doing? They would select, say, people, random text, they would come. The researcher would send them a random text asking what you are doing. So people would reply, washing clothes, shopping, having a bath, whatever they do, they have to text them back. Then they would ask, from 0 to 10, tell us how happy you are in a scale. right? So you have to tell, I'm washing my clothes, happy 4 maybe. I'm having my dessert, happy maybe 7, something like that, So what they would try to understand was what are the activities which were associated with happiness. This is what they wanted to find out. You get it, right? So they try to, they first ask the activity, then they ask how happy you are. So then, it's a simple study. They wanted to find out what are the activities which make the people happy. But, after some time, this experiment, they spent a lot of money on this. It completely failed. There was a reason behind that. Every time people would say something like this. Let's say something terrible happened to you. Let's say I met with an accident and I broke my arm. They would say, how happy you are? They would say 3. Then what will happen after like 3 weeks? If you send them the message again, they would come back to 7 again. Right? They would say, anything bad would happen, anything bad happened to them, they would fall back to like 3 or 4, then they would quickly come to 7. If they go, like say, they would come back to like 6 or 7, right? Let's say they win a lottery. They win a lottery. The moment they win a lottery, if you send them a text, they ask you how happy you are. They would say like 9, something like 9. But after like 3 months, 2 months or 2 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks, if you send them a text and ask them how happy you are, they would say again like something like 7. So they found that every time people would we would say something like 7 all the time. Whatever they have in their life, it's like this. I am happy right now, but not I'm not completely satisfied. That kind of an attitude people would have. They will never say like 9, 9, 9, whatever they will never do that. So every time, so this is why the research failed. They could not find any correlation between happiness and activities. Every time people achieve something, they became dissatisfied. Every time they want something, after some time they became dissatisfied. So it's we have been given our brains, it has something to do with the frontal lobe. We have the best developed frontal lobe among all the animals, and it is a gift. It has given us a remarkable ability of imagination. Remarkable ability of imagination. We can imagine things which are not animals can't do that, right? A dog can't sit and think what will happen next week. They can't do that. We can project ourselves into the future and imagine what can happen tomorrow, what can happen day after. And we can imagine situation which has not happened right now. What is the benefit of that? We can make them happen. That's why we are advancing. That's why we are becoming a developed species, because we can look around just if you take a look around yourself, everything around you, before they came into existence, it was created in someone's mind. Think about anything. Let's say the computer you have in front of you right now, the chair you are sitting right now. Before these things came into existence, they were created in someone's mind. Then they made it happen. So this is the remarkable quality of the human mind. But there is a curse attached to this quality, this ability. We can think of imaginary situations in the future and become anxious. So creativity and anxiety comes hand in hand. So we can't escape from anxiety. This is why we're becoming anxious. This is why we imagine things. This is why we think of negative things which can happen in the future, especially during this COVID period. When we think, and there's another thing which was added to that. The way the authorities, the government, in their battle to tackle the virus, they use this fear. They use induction of fear. They had to do that sometimes, to make people adhere to guidelines, to make people adhere to the, the basic, practices, the basic simple practices to stop the spread of virus. They had to induce fear in them. So sometimes I think it went a bit too far sometimes. When you do that too much, what happens to you? When you become excessively feared, what happens to animals when they become really scared? They can't move, right? They get frozen. So sometimes fear leads to inactivity when you are excessively feared also. That's why a positive approach dealing with this pandemic is very important. Not being scared. Our mind is not geared to be scared all the time. We won't feel good about ourselves. It's an innate quality of the human mind. If we try to, if I tell you, this is why, a lot of things, this is why health messages are failing in the world. Like, a doctor would tell you, if you don't, if you smoke, you will get a heart attack. You will die of a heart attack. So this induction of fear is not going to work like that. No, uh, it's not, because that's why people get attached to substances in the first place. They would go for something because they want to feel good. There's inside all of us, there is a man or a woman who wants to feel good, who longing to feel good. So it's becoming fearful is not a part of our, we can't live a life becoming scared. Like, let's say, you live your life thinking, whether I would get hypertension, whether I get cholesterol, whether, scared of getting fat. You can't do that. That's why diets fail. 85% of the people who start a diet, uh, they would fail because, the fear is not going to work. But, it's propagated in a massive way. That's the main way of making people adhere to the guidelines, and it's a problem. So that's another reason people becoming scared. So those things, unfortunately, has pushed us to a place where we're becoming psychologically unstable. So what's the answer? That's the most important question. Uh, yeah, when we, I think one of the most important things to do right now for anyone would be to look at your life, for what it is. Uh, like, how many things you need to be happy. Do you need a lot of lot of stimulation, lot of money, the things you were running behind, that position, that promotion, that big house, or that car that you thought would bring you that ultimate happiness. Is it worthwhile? Is it worthwhile to spend your entire life chasing those dreams? And maybe, take your time to make, understand what really matters to you. Because, one day the pandemic, like everything else, this will end one day, definitely. This will end one day. Then, now it's easy to blame. Every time when people talk on TV, I have seen they interview businessmen. They say, how is the business with pandemic? They would say, oh, in 2009 I was doing really well. We had, like 500 customers. Then they would say 2020 happened, or 2021 happened, something like that, they would say. So now actually you have a reason, at least pandemic has given you a reason to feel unhappy. But before that, were you totally happy? Like, were you blissful? So is that the life, did you have that kind of a life that you want to run back to? Maybe it's time to think about it. Maybe it's time to think about what really matters to you. Were the, that rat race we were in, some of us were in, was it worthwhile a human life? The achievement that we were looking for. So that's another thing. And another one of the most important things is to understand the absurdity of the human existence. Right? It's an absurd existence. Like, it's a very fragile existence. We have been, that I know that should make us humble and appreciate what we really have. Like, big dreams, big car, like, all this, material wealth that we were longing. Is it worthwhile our life? Like, we have our, the external environment, how small control, how little control we have over it. Trying to understand that, that itself is a huge lesson, I think. Knowing that, things go wrong, things can go wrong, life won't happen according to our plans, then how to be happy. then can you find a place inside you which is okay with world falling apart? Can you find a place there? If you can't find that place inside you, world won't bring you happiness. Governments come together and might eradicate the virus. Economy will come back, the bounce back, it will bounce back. But will you be happy? Like, will you have that internal haven that, you can go back to, where you feel some kind of solidarity, some kind of stability inside? If you didn't have that, anything, happening in the external world won't fix it. So things falling apart sometimes would direct us to go inside. It will force us to go inside. This is the beauty of the failures in life. This is the beauty of setbacks in life. They make us humble and they make us go inside our own life. When we go inside to ourselves, we notice there is a person, there is some stability inside which is not shaken by the external world. If you can find it, then 10 pandemics might come, you will be still stable. So that is another thing we can do at this time. Noticing that, how to do that. Building your resilience. First thing, one of the major thing is to notice that world has external world you cannot control. Nothing happens. Things fall apart. People get ill, people die, businesses collapse, marriages fail, children become ill. So noticing that, and then relying on the external world, your reliance on the external world to make you happy or make you stable, noticing that is the problem. Chasing behind them, not running behind them. We have this, like a monkey. The Buddhist philosophy says this. It's like a monkey jumping from one tree to the another. They don't know why they jump even. They just imagine, they just believe. There would be a better fruit in the next tree. We run from the next run. We run from this tree to the next tree. This sensory experience to this sensory experience. Everything you experience is sensory experience. Anything you eat, a sensory experience. Car you drive, it's a sensory experience. Right? We are longing for the sensory experiences. We run behind sensory experiences to make us happy. So then things fall apart. When things are not happening the way we want them to happen, noticing that, I think that is one of the major transformation you can have in your life. If you can notice that, if you can work on that, I think your institute is a yoga institute. I think yoga, something like yoga can really help in that matter. Like your ability to feel that there is a stable, calm being inside amidst all the chaos. Connecting with that. If you can do that, if you can use this time to do that, I think that would be, you would be a more resilient, more improved, more advanced person when this pandemic is over. It's not, it's not that you have to upgrade yourself to the next level, use the pandemic to upgrade, but it's just, use this while you are going through this pandemic, while you are going through this difficult time, use it to make you a more resilient, more capable of person. That's one of the things. Then I think one of the major insights we can draw from this current situation is, our ability to understand the nature of the human life, the fragility, that means like the inevitability of the death. Our ability to notice that. We are scared of death, right? We know, one of the things, all of us, I can see like 5 faces here. All of us, I cannot tell you what will happen to you in the future. Where would you go, whether you would be successful or not, but I can tell you all are going to die, right? Including me. That is the, when a person is born, that is the only reality. But we entire life, our entire life, we never think about it. We live our life not running away from that reality. We don't want people talking about death. We don't. We think it's like a negative omen, like a negative sign when you talk about death also. But to be honest, when you realize that you are going to die, or you might die, uh, people who have faced death, I have talked to some people who have faced death, who just escaped death. Sometimes when that experience, I have seen that experience transforming them. It's like a second chance, in life. The facing death, coming in face to face with their death, then having then having an opportunity to live. Then they notice, oh, I should live a fuller life. I should live a more engaging life. I should utilize my time more in a better manner. I should be more kinder to myself. I should be more caring towards my life. So this is another thing. The fragility, the moment you notice that, this is something you can lose. You don't take it for granted. So noticing death, knowing that, you might die of this pandemic, it's a good thing, paradoxically. Then you notice it, I have to, this life can end. Pandemic might not end it, but it can end. Maybe, something else might happen. So just imagine we never died. Just imagine, you never died. Then would you appreciate life that much? Then you would get bored of life, right? Would you, let's say, if you never die, would you visit your parents? I mean, they are going to live there forever. You can go there anywhere, anytime. So you would not go there. You are going, you want to meet them, you want to make the connection because this can end one day, right? So this is the beauty of the temporary nature of life. When something is not permanent, when something is not certain, we tend to appreciate it. So that's why it's limited. That's so then, but it's a beautiful thing. You have given the first-hand experience of this beautiful world. So when you have the ability to, when you have the time, so this is another thing: noticing the death, noticing the uncertainty, noticing that the fragility of life, that lack of control over circumstances. When you notice it, you tend to appreciate it even more. You tend to enjoy it even. So use this. Don't try to run away from it. Don't try to run away to some compulsive habits, like I have seen people gaining weight, they say, when during the pandemic. They say, they watch too much, they spend like hours on their mobile phone. Please, don't use those escape mechanisms. It's a kind of an escapism. Any addiction is an escapism. Sometimes it can be anger. It can be sometimes food. It can be some alcoholic beverage, right? Running away from your pain. It's a way of running away from your pain, basically. So notice that when it happens. That's one of the things. Then I also want to touch on some practical things, few practical things you can do during an uncertain time. One of the things I do when times are not, when I don't know what am I doing, when I'm doing what I'm doing, when I don't know how the things would turn out, what I would do is I would try to have some hooks to, no, I will tell you how I learned it first. There is this guy called Viktor Frankl. I think you might have heard of him. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist. He was a Jewish man in that notorious Auschwitz camp, in Hitler's Auschwitz camp. It's called Auschwitz. It was one of the worst concentration camp run by Nazi Germans. So this guy was a psychiatrist. So he had a small book with him. during his time in the concentration camp. So so when you taken into the concentration camp, you are stripped of your identity. What the first thing they do, they never call your name. You will have a number. So you never, and after some time, you don't know who you are really, right? No, you are called like number 560 or something like that. Then your previous identity, your job, nothing would matter to them. So what he did was he had a small book with him, like a notebook with a pencil. He would write down, his observations on that book. Like, he wanted to behave like a psychiatrist. He wanted to. That's his only identity. That's that book. Everything is being taken away from his family. Died. His children died. His friends died. He didn't know he would be released, or he didn't know, like, when he would be released. Nothing. But that small book and his writing, it had a hook onto his previous identity. One day he loses this book. This is the beauty of it. One day he lost it. He said, he had written a book after that. There's a beautiful book, Man in Search of Meaning, I think it's name. If you can find the book, it's a beautiful book. It's a very small book, like probably like 200 pages. One of the best-selling books. So he wrote in this book, he said, when he lost the book, that small book, he felt suicidal because he lost the identity, right? You don't know then who you are. So one of the major things you should do is, during a difficult time, do few things, as a compulsion. It's a good compulsion. As a compulsion, things, at least 3 things which will hook you to yourself. Maybe, going for a walk 30 minutes, reading a book for 20 minutes, maybe an hour, half an hour, watching some thing that you enjoy, like, a documentary, a part of a movie that you enjoy, writing something, do something, like, doing some research on something you enjoy, maybe, reading around some topic that you love. Try to have that, at least, like, I would say, at least 4 hooks to your life during a difficult time. Then maybe things are falling apart. You don't have the, I know a lot of people are losing their jobs, right? A lot of people, they don't know whether they would lose their job. Some of them, they know that, I have my job right now. A lot of people have come and told me this. Sometimes losing your job is better than waiting, no, thinking that you might lose it. You see that your company or your institute is falling apart. It's, the profits are not there anymore. They struggle to pay salary. You notice that, they struggle, and you are scared that you would lose your job someday. That is that uncertainty. People, sometimes knowing something can happen is easier for people to tolerate rather than living with the uncertainty. So then, when you have that kind of an uncertainty in your life, when you don't know where you would, what will happen, the natural tendency is to ruminate about it, forget everything. People have come and told me, how can I do anything, doctor, when I don't know what will happen to me next month? How can I make my mind, make myself to exercise? How can I make my mind to go for a walk when I don't know what will happen to me next month? Yes, but okay, I would tell them, okay, then sit down here and think about it for 1 hour. Will it change the outcome? How much you ruminate it? You will think back and forth, you would analyze inside your mind, but will it change the outcome? So your psychological investment on this subject, will it add to anything to the outcome? If it is not, then you have been ineffective, right? Then maybe if you look after your mental health, if you go for a walk, if you let's say do something which keep you engaged, maybe doing some yoga, something you really enjoy. So if you keep on doing those things, then you might have some kind of a psychological stability. Maybe you will find an answer. Rather than, they have found this again. This is not what I'm saying. This is not something, my idea. Research has shown this. They have found that, when you think about something too much, when you try to solve this problem, solving never come from thinking, excessive thinking. Think about your life, most of the answers, most of the brilliant things you did in your life, most of the time they come out of the blue. If you sit down somewhere and think for 1 hour, you won't find the answer. Thinking, actually, when you think about something, you are actually, it's like the same track playing usually. So that's why they say, sleep on it when you have a problem. So when you sometimes, haven't this happened to you, like, when you sleep morning, when you get up, you have sometimes the answer, when you don't think about the problem. It can have, like, that's how the answers come. It's a lot of, most of the philosophers, most of the scientists have said, people like Albert Einstein even had said that, most of the answers to his problems came out of the blue. So thinking, excessive rumination is not going to help. This is why keeping yourself engaged is very important. Having some kind of a routine to your day. Maybe you are not working, maybe you are working from home. Even if you are working from home, don't, don't, you should have a kind of a routine, kind of a structure to your day. Like, say, what I would basically tell people who struggle, who are work from home, if you want, I mean, it's, just try to make it look like you work from, you work in your office. Don't go and sit with your night dress in the computer, near the computer. Like, don't open your emails during the night. Don't think that you have the entire day to do the work. Don't think like that. Try to limit to that time, and as much as possible, try to simulate that work environment in home. Maybe even dress like you are going to work, right? Then you will have that mindset. Then, because our ability, our work, there is a, when it comes to productivity, there is a law called Parkinson's law. Our work has the ability to stretch, to occupy the time we have. Let's say you have something to do, you think, okay, I have 2 weeks to do it. You would, the work can stretch to fill the 2 weeks. Or if you think, I will do it within 1 day, you can do the same, sometimes same with the same efficiency within 1 day. So more time when you have, you spend more time, unnecessarily stretching the task, maybe paying too much attention to minor details. So try to have that structured time slots, even when you are working from home. So if you do that only, you will enjoy it. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. A lot of people come and tell me work from home is a bit of a problem, because family members suffer too. Now the person is at home. Sometimes family members have told me it's good if he went to work. He's there but not there, something like that. Physically the person is there but mentally is not available. So people can't tolerate it. Not easy that. It's not easy. This is not something new, right? Person is entirely in the day, during the entire day is at home, but he's working. This is not something we are used to. So getting adjusted to that, these new situations, it needs some kind of what's called there is a personality trait called openness to experience. You are inherent. We all, our that quality, that degree of that quality. It's in a spectrum. If you get a population, if you get a set of people, some people are high in the openness to experience. They they love challenges. They want changes. They look for changes, and they thrive when there is a change. And there, some people are not very high in openness to experience. They need the same routine. They need the same kind of environment. They don't want to change. These people struggle. So they find it, so noticing that, when you are struggling, what am I struggling here? Am I demanding the things to be same? So if you can notice that, then you can give yourself a chance to change, right? That is one of the things we can do. Then this is from, that's what basically I tell people who work from home. Then notice, one of the, how you are dealing with your boredom. Whether you are opening your fridge every 5 minutes, whether you are smoking, whether you have whether you spend hours and hours scrolling uh, through social media, noticing those things, then dealing with them in a positive way. I think that's one of the major things you could do to yourself. If you do those things, I would say, at the end of the day, maybe looking back after 5 years, you might say this is the best time of your life. Think about it, look back at your life, every time you grew as a person, you had that personal growth. It was a difficult time, right? When things were not happening the way you wanted, when the things were not going really well, then it demanded the change in you, right? It demanded. When things are happening the way you want, when the life is smooth, it doesn't pressurize you to change then. Then the life won't ask you to look at yourself, change, develop a different strategy. Life won't demand you to have develop those qualities. Difficult time, every time, when I look back at my life, every time I became stronger, more resilient, more capable of dealing with my stress, were the times I had a difficulty in my life, a personal difficulty or a professional difficulty. And finally, some time ago, I was seeing a patient who had a serious mental illness called schizophrenia. Right? Schizophrenia is a mental illness which needs a lot of hospital admissions. And they're thinking, if you have watched that movie, Beautiful Mind, it's about a maths professor. He had this condition, right? You see people and you hear people who are not there. That's basically the condition, right? So he had this condition, and he had you won't believe, he was a professor too. He had two postdoctorates, two PhDs, something like that, right? So then we became really good friends. Then I asked him one day, if you didn't have this condition, with this condition you have had everything, like you have done all these things, he's not, his condition was not stable, right? He was like getting admitted like every 2 months, right? So I told him, if you didn't have this condition, wow, how much, what would you do, like with this condition you have done so much. Then he told me, if I'm being given a chance to go back and change everything in my life, he said, I would still choose to become ill. Reason, you see the end product here, he told me. This is the words. But my growth, the person I became, illness had a part to play, he said. Illness had a part to play, and that difficulty, overcoming those difficulties, those challenges, helped me to become who I am right now. Then I would not, if I don't choose the illness, I have to, not. Then I won't, I won't have those experiences. Then I won't be this man. Then then I will lose everything. So this is the life, right? This is the life. It cannot be divided into good and bad. It can't be. You might have seen that, right? That yin yang theory in Zen Buddhism, right? Like, every black has some white, every white has some black. You need both of them. That's the life. Life is a synthesis. This is what yoga does, right? It helps you to unite those things, right? Life has goods and bads, and it is the it's our ability to see that. If you reject, this is why everything is wrong in the world, right? People reject the negativity. This is a bad man, this is a good man. They want to embrace the good man and reject the bad man. You can't live like that. You need both people to run the world, right? So this is what's happening. So I think noticing that this negativity has some kind of positive impact on your life, and try to embrace it, maybe, right? Trying to understand it in that way. And then maybe when this is over one day, oh, you would be thankful, mm, probably for this lecture and probably for the entire experience, right? So yeah, I think it's time for us to go for some questions. I think we have uh, passed the time also, probably a little bit.
Yeah. Actually, as you said, if Viktor Frankl could find a hope inside that gloomy prison, obviously we cannot give any excuses. That's true. But sir, like when it comes to resilience, we all do not have that, and some of us might fail. So how normal it is to fail, to feel anxious, depressed during this situation,
I
and
mean,
how
it's
do we cope up with that?
good question. Good question, Amanka. Well, it is. I mean, it is extremely normal, natural to feel anxious. If you don't feel anxious, there might be a problem in your emotion development, like your emotion response. So it's normal to feel anxious. If you're not feeling anxious, it can be a problem. Maybe you are in denial complete, right? It's noticing that like, okay, this is happening in me. Like, I am being anxious right now. I am being scared of my life right now. And then dealing with it, your ability to notice it and cope with it. Okay, I'm feeling down right now. I'm I'm scared of my family members right now. I'm scared of my future right now, my job right now. So your ability to notice it is important, and it's normal. So it is normal. Then what to do with it? Then as I said, uh, then how to deal with it? Then noticing, right? The okay, this is what happens. Am I too much analyzing this? Am I uh, am I trying to hold on to some kind of a reality which is not there anymore? Sometimes, when things change, we try to hold on to that past. This happened in our life, in our relationships sometimes, in our professional life, personal life. We sometimes try to hold on to something which is not there, especially the reality when it is changing. So noticing that. So being anxious is completely normal. It's a normal response. Mhm. There's nothing wrong being anxious.
Yeah. And so the other thing what I feel is like we as adults, we know how to cope up with situations. But when it comes to children, our children, they don't have their now they can't go to school. They can't have the happy chats with their friends. So which is something very important in their development. So how can we as parents to help our children uh, to come up uh, to come out of this,
Yeah.
and what kind of effect will it have in long term?
Hmm. Good question. And again, I think it's they were just like we were. Our children were in a kind of a hyper-stimulated state. They were like, from this class to that class, this assignment to that. No, they was packed with activities, right? We wanted to make them do really well. We wanted, we were like, we were doing probably extra hard, probably bit too much, maybe pushing them. Now it's so hard for them to settle down right now, when it comes. And because they were just like we were, we use the same strategy we are using in our personal life, in our parenting also, treating it as a project, trying to make the best output, create the best outcome. So they were in a kind of that kind of, just like we were, they were in that compulsive active mode. So switching back to this mode is very difficult for them. Noticing that, one of the things you can do it, be compassionate towards them. Notice they are in this struggle. Do you, and also in the world, children's world, there's a huge market in children's attention. So it's called attention economy actually. The world, there is this commercial world competing for our children's attention. So they are, think about their cartoons right now, right? They're like, the the way, that's very fast and very colorful. So they become inattentive, because when they get exposed to them over and over again. So settling down and reading a book is not going to be easy for them, if you try to impose it on suddenly. Noticing that, giving them some time, be compassionate with them, noting that, you go through the same struggle that they go through. And also, their major coping was their peers. Their biggest coping was the fear, their peers, and also the feedback they got from people like teachers, their coaches, teachers. Those feedbacks were very important for them. Now that support system is being taken away completely from their life. They are left with the parents only, stuck at home sometimes, right? And a lot of parents are not really good in managing their own emotions. So forget about helping a child. So noticing that, when you become frustrated, why you are becoming frustrated. So are you becoming frustrated with your child because you become frustrated with yourself? So become developing that self-reflectiveness about you, and that compassion, and also be kind to yourself also as a parent. You are not going to be uh, there are no perfect parents, there are no perfect children. So be kind to both of you and your child. That's the best advice I can give.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So this is my last question for you before we go to the question session. So as now we have different strengths, like rather struggling alone, how we can help each other um, to find better solutions.
You mean, Amalka, in our families, or like as a
Something
community as a
something
whole?
like how what we do right now. We try to share the knowledge
Ah,
to that people.
good. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I
So,
feel everyone can do something than
absolutely.
in or being worried about.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it also, that's the beauty of it. It's a win-win situation. When you now, right now, what I'm doing to you with you, I am gaining a lot. This is a path to my mental stability. That way, the way I'm helping you right now. I'm not doing something for you actually right now. I am feeling settled because I'm doing this, right? So this is the way you improve yourself. So being selfless sometimes uh, gives you an opportunity to step out from this relentless self-centered mindset. Thinking about me, I should improve, I should do well, I should that is a terrible thought. That is a terrible mentality to have. That I should improve, I should do well, I should have this, I should have that. If you have to spend your entire day thinking about that, well, that's not a life worth living, right? So stepping out of that mentality, going, stretching yourself for someone else, giving you some time for someone, that is wonderful. When we do that, I would improve when you do it, and I would improve, you would improve when you do it. So noticing that, it's not a service you are doing. You don't have to do charity. You can't save the world by doing that, right? I mean, uh, but noticing that if you keep on doing it, when you do it time to time, uh, it has an immense, powerful impact on your own mental well-being. If we do it, it has a sign. This is how we are supposed to live, actually, Amalka. You asked a very philosophical question, not divided, very self-centered. That's a very ineffective way of living. We have to be synergistic. Then we, kind of rise above if we do that together. But we have chosen a different path, unfortunately. Egoic, self-centered, very limited path.
Thank you, sir. Actually, yeah, we have a lot of interesting questions in the chat box as well. So shall I read them for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with our first question, a little long question. When people are faced with problems, some choose not to do anything about it after some point. after trying because things have moved to either ego game or totally out of your control. Then they let time to solve it or let it be like that. In a pandemic time like this, people tend to think over and over about such problems and mentally get stressed. What's your advice to handle the self well in such situations?
Oh, have you read Bhagavad Gita? No, you haven't probably. Right? But in Bhagavad Gita, they say, Krishna says to Arjuna. I mean, this is one of the, if you have a time, it's a small book. If you can have a chance, you should read it. It has, he says, never get attached to the outcome of your actions. Right? If you if you life, uh, let's say you are studying for an exam. Uh, Passing the exam, is it under your control? It is not, right? It depends on a lot of other factors. But preparing for the exam, is it under your control? Yeah. If you get too much focused on passing, you might not get prepared for the exam. So always don't try not to get attached to the outcome of your action, the fruits of your actions. Just do the action. That is why they say, that's another. This comes from Hindu philosophy, Vedic philosophy. Like treat life as a dance. You don't dance to go from somewhere to, your dance has no purpose, right? You dance because you love to dance. It's not like a journey where you go from somewhere to here to there. If you treat it like a dance, then you have already enjoyed it. Getting too much attached to the outcome is the problem. It comes from the egoic desires. Actually, you need to, you have to have this position, you have to have this car, or you have to have this thing or something. Excessively being attached to the outcome is the problem. So noticing that, why you get, why you give up on your why you get stressed, because you are focusing on something you can't control, because outcome is never under your control. Effort is under your control. So focus on effort, forget the outcome, then you will enjoy life.
Thank you, sir. Let me go to the next question. Is mental health genetically connected? Even everything you have in your plate, still people are not happy. What could be the reason?
Yeah,
How
it's
to prevent? Yes,
as
one
I
more.
said.
There's
Yeah.
another part. How to prevent chemical enzymes formation? Like,
I don't know. That's a
I read it as yeah.
probably, mental, as I said, dissatisfaction is the nature of the human mind. We are genetically, we all are being geared to become unsatisfied. That's why we become successful also as a species. We are not satisfied with our environment, so we want to change our environment. We are not satisfied with the temperature, so we created the air conditioners, right? So we are not satisfied. That had a what's called evolutionary advantage for us, because we were not satisfied. We were advancing, we were changing, but it has, as I said, it has a curse attached to it. Because we are not satisfied, we will always feel anxious. Noticing that, you can't change these things suddenly. Noticing that you are unsatisfied, noticing that, this is the nature of the human mind, will free you from it. This is the beauty of it. The moment you notice something, it loses its power over you. uh, yeah, it is a nature. I am unsatisfied about a lot of things. uh, well, what to do? That's the nature. Then notice, moment you notice it, you will never be satisfied. Wow, that's itself is freedom.
Thank you, sir. I think the next question you have already answered, but let me ask it again if you have anything more to share. How to manage to overcome anxiety?
Hmm. Yeah, it's one thing is noticing that, as I always say, noticing, you can't manage anything if you don't notice it, if you run away from it. Noticing, you're becoming anxious, why you become anxious. Then most of the time you become anxious. You are too much attached to an outcome which is not under your control. So life, the futility of being attached to outcomes, because life is very chaotic usually. Life is very unpredictable. Human life, one of, maybe Imalka, one of us just developed some kind of a cancer cell inside our body right now. Maybe one of us. I can see like 81 people here right now. We will never know it. Maybe in another 2 years we will notice it, right? So it is that unpredictable. Human life, human existence is very unpredictable. So noticing that, being too much attached to outcomes, and yeah, is the big problem. Like people excessively getting attached, they need control. So if you some people, people fall like, as I said, it's in a spectrum. Some people are excessively focused on outcome. They don't want to become ill at all, right? You might have noticed seen this people. They don't want to go. They would do excessive research on illnesses. They would read excessively. They would take extra precautions when they eat, drink, anything what they do, so to avoid problems. So if you are someone like that, you are geared to become anxious then. So noticing if you have that quality, and being okay with the chaotic world is one of the best things, gifts you can give to yourself.
Thank you, sir. And the next question also, they're asking the same thing, but let me read it for you. Actually, this question shows the real problems people have. So let me read that also for you. I'm doing everything with a fear and overthinking. How can I overcome?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of a uh, hmm, uh, yeah. If they, let's say, if that is a problem, if you like, let's say, uh, everything, fear and anxiety is a bit of a over, I think, exaggeration, uh, because it's very unlikely someone would do everything with fear and anxiety, right? If that is the case, maybe they have a personality trait, a personality trait which is demanding that rigidity in their life. There are people, you might have noticed that, they take notes of everything. They want to make sure that everything happens in the way they want. If you tell them, okay, I'm going here on this day at this time, you have to make sure you are doing it, because they want the outcome. They want to control the world. There are certain personalities like that. They are excessively focused on uh, punctuality, the control. So if they are someone like that, then they definitely need help. So then I think they should meet either a psychiatrist, or probably meet a psychiatrist, I would say. Then they would find out what's wrong. They have a personality trait like that. Rather than giving an answer here, I think that would be the best thing.
Thank you, sir. So let me go to the next question. So can you let us know some small exercises for kids to balance their mind in this period?
Yeah, well, one of the best gifts you can give them, first thing, we should become tolerant with them. First thing, if we become excessively focused on making them calm, making them settled quickly, we would make things, more difficult for them. So first, looking after ourselves when we look after our kids is one of the first things we should do. Then I think, training them like a on a basic simple mindfulness practice, like mindful drawing would be one of the, I do it with my daughter. She just came in, I do it with her. So we getting them to uh, color something which needs some attention, or reading. Some people, some kids really love reading. rather than giving them an electronic device, like it's like actually what I would say, taking them away from that hyper stimulated state is the biggest challenge. You have to do it very gradually. So first stop negative things you are doing, like you don't give them the mobile phone all the time, don't like allow them to become hyper stimulated. Then slowly let them become more less and less stimulated, more and more bored, I would say. When they become bored, they become creative. uh, that's the thing with children.
Thank you, sir. So let me go to the next question, and I think we have four more questions, sir.
All right.
Okay. So the next question is, if a certain family member, someone you live at home with is on a downward spiral, how do you encourage them to get on board good compulsive habits of sort, like going for
Ah,
a walk, watching a movie?
okay. Right. Okay. Someone, if one of the this is one of this I think this it's a very good question. If one of your family members struggling, if they are going on a downward spiral, what they have said, no, if they are struggling, don't try to rescue them. Don't don't try to excessively try to rescue them, because you are going to make things worse them for them. If you might try to push them too much, right? You might push them, then they would feel even more rejected sometimes. When people are struggling, one of the worst things we can do is asking them to, okay, come for a walk, do this, do that. If you But what I would say, people, don't think it as your responsibility to save them. This might sound paradoxical, but if you try to do things in a positive way, let's say a family member is not engaging in anything, they are, then if you, let's say if you enjoy, let's say you watch a movie, rather than dragging them, then they will feel like, more relaxed and get engaged with you. Let's say you go for a walk and try to maintain your routine. If they are struggling, then you would help them and encourage them to do it, rather than telling them to, don't stay in the bed, don't be in your mobile phone, or don't be with your mobile phone all the time. Rather than advising them and pushing them to change, you do the best thing yourself and make an example of a good life. They would follow. This is the only way to rescue them. A lot of
Thank
people do the other thing. I know they would tell them,
Hmm.
don't just keep the phone aside. They will try to advise the. It's not going to work.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Let me go to the next question. I have seen most of the students during the pandemic, they have addicted to various kind of video games. So how can we help them overcome that kind of addiction?
Oh, well, it's a. I think we don't have the. I mean, today we might not have that, time or to give a long answer, because a lot of people, everybody who get addicted to video games are not the same. People get addicted for different reasons. Sometimes it's running away from a negative environment at home, right? Sometimes it's a prior, getting wanted to some shy person. That's the only way they get connected with other people. Sometimes, right? So there could be it's very individual. One of the things you could do is actually, as I said with the family in the previous answer, show them, the beauty of engaging with life by doing it yourself, rather than advising them, telling them, pushing them not to do it. You start to read a book, you start to watch a movie, you try to cook something nice, then they would come. Try to do it. If you do it, they would come. Show them, life is more beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a much blissful to go outside rather than sitting in front of a computer looking at a 2D space, right? Showing that, then they will get it. But punishing, advising, uh, these things usually don't work with children. And it's individual, right? As I said, they should get assessed individually. maybe they are depressed even. Sometimes people with depression, as a coping, they use those things.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me go to the next question. Sir, we see pain and suffering around us in our friends and relatives post-pandemic situation. But still, how can we keep our mind stable and not getting influenced?
Well, I mean, if we are not getting influenced, Amalka, if you are not getting influenced, maybe you might have some psychopathic traits. Right? If you are not getting influenced, of course, you have to get influenced. We are getting influenced, right? If you are not sensitive to suffering, I mean, that's a huge problem. So you would get, right? You would get. Uh, and use it as like a screen. This suffering, use it as a screen to see what human existence for what it is. This is a part of human existence, the suffering. uh, and it is going to be there when the pandemic is over also. Life is not going to be very peaceful when the pandemic is over. Now at least we have a reason to be sad, right? And something to like a scapegoat to blame for all our suffering. Actually, this is what pandemic is actually. How many people were dying due to smoking? How many people were dying due to on the roads by road traffic accidents? These numbers exceeded sometimes the pandemic. And the homicides. How many humans have killed other humans every year? These things were pandemics too, right? So now pandemic. Uh, it's easy to blame it for everything, but I'm not saying unfortunately, I should say it's not the big. It was not the biggest thing which happened to us. So yeah, so noticing that, and human nature of human existence, understanding it will help you, and the ones you love also. Then you would know how to reassure someone rather than asking them not to feel sad, not to feel anxious.
Thank you, sir. Uh, yeah, I think, yes, this is our last question actually. Uh, does being too aware of your emotions and paying attention to it aggravate anxiousness and depression?
Ah. Hmm. Uh, okay. Let's say, Amalka, uh, let's say someone, uh, comes and stabs someone else in front of you. If you close your eyes, will that go away? Like that incident will go away. Like, if someone is killing someone in front of you, just because you close your eyes, will that go away? This is what people do, right? They think, when we, don't remind them of that incident. Even parents come and tell me, please don't tell him, doctor, talk to him, but don't talk about that thing. So this is a dangerous way of dealing with emotions. You can't. You can close your eyes, but the world will be there when you open it. Suffering. So more the acceptance is not succumbing to helplessness. It is noticing these shitty things happen in your life and still taking action, right? If you do that, only you will succeed. So it's not part. This is a lot of people believe that if you this is people actually this is more prevalent in our culture. This is why Asian, Indian subcontinent culture, our emotional literacy is not that great, because from our childhood we are being told, while the long face, don't, please Puta, don't be jealous, please son, don't be jealous, don't be angry, don't frown at me, don't talk to me like that. We try to make people guilty for having negative emotions, and when we do that, we think people would feel blissful when we do that. No, it's not going to happen in that way. More you notice the negative emotions in you, you will become more capable of handling, and you will be like a master in handling your emotions if you notice the negative emotions. So uh, it's a wrong idea to believe that being too much sensitive to emotions is going to make you. It's noticing and being sensitive is two different things. Like, how easily you are triggered is a different thing. But even if you are someone who is getting easily triggered, if you can notice it, you won't get triggered that easily. That's the beauty of it, because you can see it from an outsider's perspective. Then you know what's happening to you. Then the emotion do not have a control over you anymore. So yeah, so it's not going to make you depressed, definitely.
Thank you, sir. Actually, there's one more question which I have missed, and it is not directly relevant to the topic today, but let me ask that it might help someone. Uh, for a 3.5-year-old kid, giving punishment to sit in a place, is that correct? To make sense of his mistake.
Oh my god, it's long. It needs a long answer. I don't know how to give a short answer. The star charts, punishments. Well, those things were now out of date. Like, uh, it's not. You are not raising a dog, right? You are not. I mean, even a dog, you should never do that. That's what I think. It's uh, the you if you are too much focused about the behavior rather than thought process, the emotional process behind an emotion, you are going to damage the person. Well, it doesn't mean, what I'm not saying. Now, what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying you should not guide them. I'm not saying you should not direct them, but you can't have that black and white kind of approach, punishment and reward. uh, because that's going to backfire, because you would look like a conditional lover to them. Children who are conditionally loved, they don't develop that sense of self when you are conditionally loving them, because then they think they are being valued and appreciated for the outcome only. So they become outcome oriented excessively. These people, they become compulsive when they become adults, because they want to please people. They, every time they did well, they were appreciated. When they didn't do well, they were punished. So they don't, internal person, they lose the value of that person. I know this is a kind of a psychodynamic theory what I'm talking here right now. It's a bit of a yeah, might be a little bit advanced for some people, but it's a dangerous thing to do to a child. It affects their development, because then that sense of self, where we all have that inherent sense of being inside us, which is regardless of we achieve or not, has some value to the value in that person. That sense of value is lost when we excessively praise or punish the person. So it's not a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So that is our last question, and with that we come to the end of our workshop, the special talk. And I would like to thank you again, sir, for accepting our invitation to share your knowledge, your experience with us today. And I think all the valuable ideas that you shared give us some insight to think positively and to face this difficult time with courage. So thanks a lot, sir. And we hope that you will be in contact with us, and we are looking forward to have similar sessions in the future as well.
Definitely. Thank you, Amaka.
And also let me thank Ms. Subhashini Handy, the Cultural Officer of Indian High Commission of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, and also the technical assistant was given by Amal Vikramasinghe. Thank you, Amal. And also all the members from AYM and Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center who joined us today, and all the guests who joined us today. It's your participant, which makes this workshop a success. So thanks a lot. And also we have, so this month we will be having similar sessions every Saturday and Sunday, same time, 4 to 5:30. So we invite you all to join us in our future sessions as well. And after this session, there will be a happy chat with the doctor. So whoever wants to talk to him personally, you can stay in the meeting. And with that, sir, and I request you also to stay with us, even though the session finishes. So let us stay safe and stay strong. Thank you, everyone.
सर्वेषां